Hello, welcome to Simon's Trading Channel. Happy Tuesday to you. Stand by for my daily Bitcoin price action analysis. Hope you're all well and have had a nice day. Okay, so diving straight in with a 4-hour chart on Bitcoin, as you can see here. There's the range with a midpoint in the middle, as you would expect it. And then I put a little line of randomness halfway from the midpoint to the top, which Bitcoin may or may not be respecting as an area of support. I'll only know that if Bitcoin turns up from where it is at the moment. It's got a chance, I'd say, but that's not confirmed and wouldn't really be confirmed until Bitcoin got back above sort of 71.5, which it's $1,000 away from at the moment, but you know, clearly in an uptrend, with momentum to the upside on the 4-hour, and indeed the daily, and indeed the weekly, and indeed just about the hourly. It's interesting. So it'll lose hourly momentum to the upside if Bitcoin closes basically $1,000 below where it is at the moment, which would take it down to 68.5. So not that far from where Bitcoin is at the moment, but that's interesting. If this turns up from here on the hourly, then you know that would look good for the next move being to the upside rather than a continuation to the downside. Something to support that, which you know, I like to reference the 50% area, as I'm sure you've got as I'm sure you can testify to, and 50% of this move up here is very close to that line of randomness that I drew on yesterday, or the day before, I can't remember, but it's been on there a couple of days, and so you know that's coming in. It's probably a range from 68.5, so where the hourly will turn, or what the hourly has to achieve, otherwise the momentum will turn to the downside. Oh God, that's complicated. Anyway, as long as price action stays somewhere above 68.5 on 4 hours and dailies, that would suggest that there's more upside before downside, and clearly the opposite to that is also true. However, this uptrend is going to be hard to break with Bitcoin really in the top half of this range, and so it's quite securely doing that so far. The price action does get more interesting as Bitcoin approaches the current all-time high, which is the current top of the range, because from there you can see, you know, it either busts on through, or there's three options. It either busts on through, I think that's the least likely. It may hover around with increasing buying pressure up against resistance. That would be a good sign for an eventual move towards new all-time highs. But if it doesn't spend much time up towards the top of this range, and indeed just reverses pretty quickly, getting back down below this line of randomness, which is basically 69,000, then it will be range play for another, I don't know, a couple of weeks maybe. And so it's an interesting time. It's always interesting to see what Bitcoin is going to do. This was interesting. It's all interesting. But getting up here, you know, this will be a significant resistance level for Bitcoin to break through. And it should be respected as such, so in my humble opinion. So we'll see what happens. I kind of still feel that Bitcoin could pull back down a bit further and to continue in the sort of current trend. Oh, excuse me. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it does do another move back up. but then comes back down to around this area, so 66.5, but then stays above 66-ish, makes another move up. I would not be surprised to see that. But, that's just hearsay. That remains, that would keep the trend alive, and all good. Clearly, what you wouldn't want to see would be, well, if you're looking for more upside, you wouldn't want to see this. What I'm about to show you, you would not like to see if you're looking for more upside. So, I don't know, maybe a bit of a move down. Then another move up that failed to get above here. That sort of thing, even if it doesn't break this trend line, would start to look a bit top heavy, so to speak, as in a failed higher high, aka M formation. And it wouldn't be a death sentence, but it would be a suggestion that this trend has seen most of its existence, and maybe there'll be another change. And then you'd have basically a move up, half a move down, half a move up, full move down, full move up, maybe another move down. Who knows? Ultimately, that would a move back down to the bottom of the range without breaking or making new lows, in a way would be long-term more bullish for Bitcoin, because effectively that would just be a big consolidation, and the longer the consolidation, the bigger the move that follows it. That's all down to volatility and the expansion of volatility following consolidations, and I can show you that very quickly using a marvelous tool that John Bollinger introduced to technical analysis in the 1980s, and he gave it his name, the Bollinger Band, which you can see here in my favorites. And with regards to this range, looking at a 4-hour Bollinger Band is not very helpful. But for example, looking at the weekly, it gets a bit confusing with my range on, so I'll just remove that. I can always put that back on. But as you can see, there has been there hasn't been a huge contraction in volatility yet on the weekly. If you look at the width of the Bollinger Bands here, which was effectively from this top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It was about 17 weeks into this period of consolidation that the Bollinger Bands started to get very narrow on the weekly. And what follows narrow Bollinger Bands, i.e. low volatility, is indeed expansion of the Bollinger Bands. And so you could see it took all that period of time for the Bollinger Bands to narrow, i.e. volatility to cool off on the weekly, but the move that occurred afterwards was really quite handsome. This consolidation, despite it feeling like a very long time, is not comparable to that. The weekly volatility is still relatively high. It's not on the other time frames, but it is still on the weekly. So there's a difference, and that's why I'm saying the longer this just bounces around, not really breaking down below, just say 55, nor breaking above 75, so that's $20,000 range. The longer that happens, the narrower the Bollinger Bands, i.e. the lower the volatility, and therefore the bigger the move that appears afterwards. Now that could be to the downside or the upside, nobody knows. But in the context of the trend, you would think it would be to the upside. So part of me wants this to be over. The other part of me that's interested in Bitcoin going up wants this to continue. But, there we go. You can see the daily's been pretty narrow, certainly not at high volatility thresholds for quite some time now. The volatility has, though, built up on the daily over the last week, and that's just a manifestation of this upside move. So, looks good for more upside. I'd like it to continue sideways for a bit longer, but don't tell anyone. Anyway, good Lord, that's 10 minutes. Okay, that'll do. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please like and subscribe. And if you haven't enjoyed it, tomorrow's Wednesday, and that's right, I'll be doing another one, so don't come back. Okay, goodbye.